first response service, which can now be contacted from a mobile or landline on free phone 0800 952 1181. From the 4th of April 2022, the old 01274 number will no longer be available. Your call is important to us and will be answered by our next available telecoach. Calls may be recorded for training and monitoring purposes. If your call is an emergency, you need to call 999, or in the case of a medical emergency, attend your local accident and emergency department. If your call is related to a physical health need, please call 111 or see your local GP. You can access other services for mental health support. Samaritans can be contacted 24 hours a day on 116 123. Guideline can be contacted between 12 noon and 12 midnight on 0800 1884 880. If you are under the age of 25, between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m., you can contact Night Owls on 0300 200 390. Thank you for calling the Bradford District Care NHS Foundation Trust First Response Service, which can now be contacted from a mobile or landline on free phone 0800 952 22, the old afternoon. You two to Safia at Singapore.
Good afternoon, Safia. Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, it's a terrible echo on the line.
Oh, I do apologise. What about now?
Yeah, that's a bit better. Yeah, that's better. How
can I help?
This is Mr. Hussain, brother of Mr. Talib Hussain, date of birth 15/9/1960, and I'm trying to get in touch. I'm trying to get in touch with Baljit Nota.
Yeah, that's fine. Bear with me a moment. I'll just try Bali's number now.
Okay, sure.
Hi, Shazad.
Yes.
Hi there. I'm being told that the call needs to go to Chris Browell. He's kind of new care coordinator.
Chris Browell. Oh.
Yeah.
When did that happen?
What happened a while ago? I'm sure it got mentioned to yourself.
No, it didn't. I mean, this is the first time. Is there nobody? Is that who's his social worker?
Christopher Browell.
There's no. Is Baljit Nota no longer involved?
If all calls need to go to Chris. No, all calls that come through us that need to go to Chris. So I'll just see if he's available.
Yeah, if you can just make him available, I'll speak to him. Yes. Hello. Hello.
Hello, is that Shazad? This is Chris.
Yeah. Have we spoken before?
We have, yeah.
Okay, I'm just seeking some clarity. I've tried to get in touch with Baljit Nota and she's directed it to yourself. Is she still involved in Talib's case?
I think so. Yeah. But I'm allocated as Talib's care coordinator now.
Yeah, but as Talib's care coordinator, is that not a role that was previously fulfilled by Fungai Muchichitiri?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
I think it was.
Yeah, and Fungai Muchichitiri was, working for the trust, Bradford District Care Trust. Is that the same with yourself, or do you work for Bradford Council?
So I work in the community mental health team, which is the health trust, but my employer is the local authority. Because I'm a social worker.
Oh, I see. Okay, but what is who's the social worker? Because the reason I say that is because with all respect, I mean, as you're aware, Talib is no longer part of. He's no longer a patient of the city mental health team. He's been discharged. So so he's not under any consultant or anything. So to have a care coordinator is a role that's fulfilled within the city mental health team when there's a patient. And as you're aware, Dr. Dixon discharged Talib in August, so he's no longer a patient of of the trust. So I'm happy, and that's why I wanted to gain some clarity because a care coordinator works with the local authority and the trust in order to coordinate things. But I'm just trying to establish that are you Talib's social worker? If you can just I think it's something that you would need to clarify as well. Get some clarity on this because Talib now has no longer involvement with the city mental health team or the trust.
Okay.
So he's been discharged, and all right. So let's just move on from that. If you can just gain some clarity on the fact that what is who Talib's social worker is. If that's yourself, that's fine. The reason I'm ringing up today is because I'm not sure. Are you aware that we've suffered a family bereavement?
I am. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I am aware of that. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, all right. So you're aware that Talib and myself have lost our mother quite recently, and obviously we've in the last week or so we've been going through a bereavement process. The purpose of my call is that obviously Talib is with me here. We're in Oldham now, but Talib has a right to the property where we were living. And obviously, it was my intention to, obviously, presently Talib's homeless, all right? And obviously, Talib has certain entitlements and rights in law, particularly because he's out in the community under Section 117. Now, he's presently, we've been asked to vacate from the premises because of our mother, and that was in a tenancy was in her name. It's like important to get the tenancy transferred onto Talib's name simply because that he has rights, certain legal rights that the local authority has to recognize. They can't make the person homeless, and presently we are homeless. And I'm looking to just coordinate that with yourself in order to, facilitate Talib. Talib has his own house, a disably adapted property, and quite clearly he has rights that are, being infringed upon. And I just wanted to touch base with you so you can speak to, your seniors to establish that, if that's going to happen, because ultimately, there's a liability on the council because, he's not receiving any financial support. Obviously, there's still, I'm sure you're fully aware that ongoing court proceedings that are going on, which are being delayed. But ultimately, Talib needs a home. All right, he can't live, here with my sister on on the couch. And it's important for me to help ensure that Talib has the security of accommodation on a home, considering that he still remains as a section out in the community under Section 117 and has certain legal entitlements. So can I leave that with you, and you can make inquiries regarding securing Talib's tenancy?
Yeah, I can find out what the situation is. Have you spoke with anyone about it yet?
No, I haven't, because obviously I'm not spoken to anybody. We're going through a bereavement process. It's a difficult time, and obviously you're the first person I've spoken to. As you know, there's certain injunctions in place. I'm not sure that are preventing me from going to the property, but the main point is that I've spoken previously to the Manningham Housing Association, and obviously there's an issue of under occupancy, right? I understand there's an issue of under occupancy because it's like a 5-bedroom house and there's only Talib and potentially, myself going to be there, or mainly Talib, yes. But irrespective of over occupancy or under occupancy, I spoke to Manningham Housing because I knew what was going to happen to my mother. I knew that eventually she was going to die. So I've been attempting to get the property transferred onto Talib's name ever since the court proceedings happened in my mum's case. Because quite clearly, if my mother's got dementia, she's elderly, she can't be a tenancy holder. And I've been trying to get the tenancy off my mum's name and onto my brother Talib's name, because if you look at your records, the property of 20 Primary Way was given primarily because of Talib. All right, it was in my mum's name because my mum had been on the register with the housing association for many years. So therefore, it didn't matter, we were going to live together. But can you understand that when my brother Talib was discharged into the community in 2005, his accommodation, we tried to secure his accommodation, and we had this property. So even though my brother Talib was not a tenancy holder, my mother was, he still has rights to the property, and that property is fully adapted to meet his needs. And so therefore I would like to have the tenancy transferred onto Talib's name going forward, because that at least gives him a security of accommodation, because right now it's in a state of limbo.
I can certainly see what the situation is regarding that, Shazad. I think it might be. I'm not sure whether that would be possible, but obviously that's not my decision to make. I mean, obviously, if it were your mum's house and she owned it, that would most likely be different. But
yes,
in my knowledge, switching a tenancy over is more difficult. But I'll certainly see if that's possible.
Well, I mean, obviously, as there's certain human rights that people have a right to a home. All right, because of the circumstances of the court proceedings, we've obviously had to vacate. I mean, I couldn't leave him there, so I'm still caring for him. You see, I've still fiduciary responsibility to him. Now, let's just say, for example, that there were no court proceedings regarding my mother and stuff, because we would still be in the property. It's very difficult for them to, remove us. And like I said, this is not something that has just come about now. Obviously, I've thought about it beforehand. I've spoken to Manningham Housing Association. I particularly addressed the issue of under occupancy, and their argument is that as long as we're getting paid, they just want the rent. All right. Obviously, they have a duty to ensure that there's no under occupancy, because obviously they have a community to serve. But the bottom line is not a house; it's my brother's home, and he's lived there for many years. And obviously, he's saying he wants to go home. All right, and we've not been able to do that because of all the injunctions in place and restrictions in place. So what I would like to do, the reason I'm contacting you today is obviously you need to speak to. It's not going to be your decision. It's obviously going to be a decision made up by the senior executives.
I think it'll be probably the legal department. They'll make the management decision. It's like you say, whether Talib and yourself, without the, obviously your mum sadly passed away, that without the restraining orders, do Talib and yourself, can that tenancy be restarted?
Yeah.
So I'll try and find out.
I mean, just try to make the argument. I know it's a legal team, but the legal team is taking instructions from somebody. Solicitors don't make decisions. The decisions, obviously, solicitors give advice. And solicitors, can advise what needs to happen, and act on behalf. I can have a solicitor, and the solicitor, can advise me, but ultimately it's my decision. So this is ultimately the council's decision, and the council are fully aware that my brother's presently. I mean, we have ongoing issues with the council, me and the council, as you're fully aware, and I don't need to go into that. But the bottom line remains that that property. I've obviously secured that property for my mum and my brother, and obviously and for my late father as well. And that property is adapted. We've got like a stair lift. I've had to pay £6,000 to put a stair lift in there. It's fully adapted to meet Talib's needs. Ultimately, the present situation, because there's ongoing court proceedings, at present my brother's not receiving any money at all for benefits. He's refusing to take money from the card that they provided, but all I'm trying to do is look to secure his rights to accommodation. And the only argument that can be made is under occupancy. That's the only argument that they can make. All right, because obviously Talib is going to be the sole tenancy holder, just like my mum was going to be the sole tenancy holder. But irrespective, that's his home. There's no there may be a slight issue with under occupancy, but I've spoken at length with the Manningham Housing Association, and they have said that obviously because Talib's an exception. All right, and that's his home. It's not just a house. I'm just trying to emphasize. He's asked me many times. I want to go back home and visit his mother. He's not been able to do that because of the injunction. I couldn't take him. There's no other alternative ways for him to take him. He's not seen his mother since 19th of February last year. He's not. Obviously, he has certain human rights that are being violated. So, if you can just kindly express those points to whoever you need to, and kindly get back to me as soon as possible, would that be okay?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Tomorrow or Thursday though now, but I'll definitely get back to you this week.
Yeah, I just
as soon as I can.
Yeah, I just need clarity of understanding because obviously a lot of Talib's personal belongings are there. All his personal belongings are in the house. My personal belongings are in the house, and we need a definitive answer because obviously I would like Talib to secure Talib's tenancy and give him a home at the end of the day. Because alternatively, the local authority, knowing that the fact that they have a legal duty of care under Section 117, are leaving this individual homeless, and that. Because presently he is homeless. We're only living here temporarily while the court cases were going on about my mother's and so on and so forth. So thank you very much, Mr. Andy.
Oh no.
No, Talib. Just to explain regarding the tenancy. We had to put my mum put her name down on Manningham Housing Association for 10 years, so she was on a waiting list. Eventually, what happened is that the circumstances changed, and Talib needed to be discharged from the city mental health team because he was held under Section 3 of the Mental Health Act, which puts him gives him certain rights. So that was in 2005. So I helped. Loads of other problems. My father had dementia, my mom, and everybody else. So I needed to secure Talib a house so he can be discharged into the community. Because my mum had already been on the waiting list, I put my mum's name on the tenancy. My mum doesn't speak English, she doesn't know what's going on. I'm the one I was the executor, I was doing everything. So I put her name on the tenancy, knowing the fact that if she's the sole tenancy holder, we're all going to be living there, and Talib had a home. So if you look at Talib's medical records when he was discharged into the community in 2005, it was on the basis that he had a house and an accommodation to go to. So that was obviously facilitated through myself. Then subsequently, when the court proceedings started happening about my mum, I tried desperately to speak to my mum's solicitors to get the tenancy transferred off my mum's name, because there was a period of time where my mum spent her, temporarily living with my sister in Oldham. So, I was trying to get the tenancy onto Talib's name, but nobody would speak to me and stuff. And obviously, then when you're going through court proceedings, other things take priority. So the aim was always to put the property on Talib's, for Talib to be a tenancy holder, because I'm just trying to emphasize that's his home. He's lived there since 2004. So not 2004. He was discharged in 2005. So he's been living in that house since 2005. That's the home that he recognizes. It's been fully adapted to meet his needs primarily. All right, because obviously he has mobility issues, he's doubly incontinent, and obviously I put a stair lift in there as well. So it's important that that he looks at that if you can assist us in helping securing his tenancy. The only argument that can be made is under occupancy, but that under occupancy argument is superseded by the fact that Talib is out in the community under Section 117. He's lived there for over 10 years. That's still his home, and the council will be leaving him homeless in the present situation.
You and Talib, that's what you're requesting for me to ask about. Is you and Talib living there?
Well, obviously Talib can't live there on his own. I'm his carer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I'll make that clear.
Yeah.
You said to me, I'll make it clear in the note.
Yes.
And I'll relay that to the relevant people, and I'll get you a response back.
Okay, and obviously presently there were legal injunctions in place that I couldn't even. Hence why I couldn't take Talib to see his mum. All right.
Yeah.
So there was injunctions in place. I just need to know if the council is still gonna if those injunctions still are valid, because obviously
to the area.
I can't go to the house. So I'm just slightly unclear, because obviously those injunctions were put in place because the local authority forced me out of the house and looked to force care on my mother, and then wanted to ensure that I didn't interfere with the care that was being provided to my mother. So obviously they got injunctions in my absence. I didn't even attend court, but so they got.
Have yourself and Talib still got?
Just needed a final decision, because obviously all Talib's belongings are there. All right, so obviously I didn't think the fact that they could kick us out of the house, but they managed to secure a court order on the 19th of February saying that I had to vacate the place. But the case was regarding my mother. But then obviously I think there was an assumption that Talib would still be there. But I couldn't leave Talib there because obviously I'm his carer. So I had to bring him with me to Old. Now leaves Talib in a situation where he's homeless. and yet he has certain rights because obviously, as you know, there's legal duty of care under Section 117, and so therefore I'm just looking to secure his accommodation. And just to clarify, Talib's not going to live there on his own while you provide him with carers in my absence. He's refusing to, not do that. So I need to be there to provide him with care.
That's fine. And you're saying that he'd be homeless because it's the house in Oldham, that's a temporary situation.
We're just living on the couch because the reason that he's presently made homeless is because of the injunctions that he put in place against me. Now the problem here is that I think what the council want to do is that they're trying to say Talib and myself are two different people, all right, and they want to view it that way. But the reality is that Talib can't operate without me. Does that kind of make sense? So we're
that's fine. To the notes, and then I can put that case to the relevant people, and then I can get you a reply. And I think especially, regardless of especially about the belongings as well, because you need to know what's happening.
Yeah, obviously because with regards to the belongings, there was a court order stating that you should have them because they put an injunction in place. I couldn't go there, so the council were ordered to put them into storage. I can't go. The problem I have is that today, if you say, "All right, look, we're not going to give you the property, go collect your belongings," I can't go to collect the belongings. There's an injunction in place that says I can't go to the house. So I'm only going to go to collect the belongings should that arise. Obviously, I'm trying to avoid that. But if there's a situation where we need to go collect the belongings, I personally still can't go because there's injunctions in place preventing me from going. So it's like an impossible situation. So I just need a clarity of understanding regarding the injunctions, all right, regarding the belongings, because obviously where I'm going to put Talib's belongings. Do you understand? And it's it's a big house, and Talib's got his own belongings there. What am I supposed to do? Put him into storage? How am I going to pay for that? All right. And Talib has, even now that we're living here, anywhere Talib goes, because obviously he's on a Section 117, but more importantly, he's on disability living allowance and so on. He's entitled to a house. All right. Everybody's entitled to a house. He's entitled to a house to live in. All right. And the only argument that you can make is that the house is too big. But our counter argument is that that's his home. It's not a house, it's his home. He's been living there for a long time, and obviously he's fully adapted to meet his needs. Going forward, Talib is doubly incontinent, has mobility issues. He spends most of the time in bed. I'm just trying to make sure that look, his needs are going to be met. The council are not presently meeting his needs, and to then even deny him a house or a home. Obviously, it's their decision at the end of the day, and there's going to be consequences to those decisions. Right now, all I'm looking to do is help secure Talib's tenancy, so he's got a home to live in, and rather than, because obviously our sisters told us several times, maybe tells us to leave one day. All right, we've got if she kicks us out, then where are we going to go? We're on the streets then, and that's it, putting Talib's life in danger. So currently, the situation is such where the local authority, who was a duty of care under Section 117, are relying on the goodwill of my sister. And my sister has mental health problems herself. Anytime she decides to kick us out, we're on the streets, and that exposes us to risk of serious risk of life and limb. Because if we were on the streets, we can die from there. So if you can just make those arguments that clearly this is it's an absolute mess, I can tell you. All right, Chris, it's an absolute mess that they were hoping that Talib was going to be at the property and then they could have done everything. And Talib obviously is not, and Talib still has mental capacity. He's still, and that has not been established as there. And quite clearly, that matter still in court regarding his mental capacity. But he clearly has still, in the absence that he's not receiving any financial aid. He's not even getting his benefit money, which he's entitled to. He doesn't want to go. He wants the council to be in charge. All we're looking to do is just secure his tenancy. If his tenancy can be secured and we can remove the injunctions, then Talib can take up his tenancy back there. He's got enough money that the council saved up, so he can afford to pay for the tenancy. But it's important that there's not going to be an option other than that house, because obviously he's lived there for such a long time. There can be an argument made that like I said, over under occupancy, but that's an argument that obviously I've had the discussions with before, because at the end of the day, we're presently, this situation is no good.
I'll try and and get back to you tomorrow. If not, it'll be Thursday.
Okay,
Okay.
no, that's fine. So, what was your name again? Chris Browell.
Chris Browell. Browell. BROWELL.
Chris Browell, and you came to Oldham with your colleague once, didn't you?
I did, yes.
And we spoke on the telephone. Yeah. Like I'll speak to you, and and also, can you just clarify the situation regarding being Talib's social worker? If I think, you know, obviously being the care coordinator, just if you can seek clarity on this as well, that. Happy to speak to you as Talib social worker, because that's what I was asking Baljet to do, is discharge him from the city mental health team, give him a social worker. Then obviously we're no longer dealing with the trust. But because you're like, it's still a bit vague, you see, because you're acting as a care coordinator under the assumption that Talib's under the city mental health team, and he quite clearly is not under the city mental health team now, because Dr. Dixon discharged him in August.
I think it's my understanding. The reason is that I think Talib is assessed as needing support from a community mental health team, and because of the ongoing kind of proceedings and things, Oldham haven't taken on that responsibility. So I think that's why CMHT is still involved.
No, I'm sorry, I don't understand. I'm sorry, I don't understand that, because you're saying that. Could you just repeat the need? You're saying that why is city mental health team involved? Because they're not providing with anything in the community. City mental health team. You know, a city mental health team can only provide services while he's under a doctor. Dr. Dixon discharged him. Therefore, while he's in the community, the trust are providing him with nothing. And so
I think it's because for the transfer, that will be fine.
No, but I'm sorry, but that's not correct, because there's no involved. The only reason that the mental health team city mental health team get involved is because the patient is under the care of the doctor and receiving support from the doctor. All right.
Yeah.
So let's just say, for example, the reason that Oldham can't take Talib on is because he doesn't have mental health needs. He's on medication. He's not going to be under a doctor or anything. So the reality is that he just like, for example, if he's just discharged from the city mental health team, he would be in the community with a social worker. And that's what should happen. So there's no need for Oldham city mental health team to take over, because he's not under anything.
I'll ask that question. Understand what you're saying, but you would have a lot more grounds and evidence for that if you would allow Talib to say that and his capacity to be assessed. If he's assessed to have capacity and he said he didn't want support from the CMHT and other things as well, then that would solve those problems.
Okay. You know what is, Chris? I'm glad that you brought this point up. Okay, it's not me that's preventing this. What actually happened is, obviously, because you're coming new to the case, I just wanted brief you about what has been happening. So what happened is that my brother was sectioned under the Mental Health Act in August 2018 under Section 2. All right, so he spends a period of time from August to December at the hospital. All right, under at Linfield Mount Hospital. And so when he was discharged, one of the things I said was that I don't want him to be discharged until he's had his mental capacity assessment done. All right, so that was something that I wanted to have done. And so it is yourself that refused to carry out the mental capacity assessment, because it was very important, because I'm confident that Talib has mental capacity, and obviously so was the doctor, Dr. Dixon, and everybody else, because the question, they would refuse to answer the mental capacity assessment. So what happened is that he was eventually discharged into my care, initially in December 2018, but more formally, fully discharged in January without the mental capacity assessment being carried out. Subsequently, I have spent all of 2019 and 2020 saying, look, please, let's sit down and carry out this mental capacity assessment. All right, nobody's willing to do this. And so therefore, it's a bit late now. And now everybody, because the matters ended up in court and everything else, now they're saying that they want to carry out a mental capacity assessment. Now, because this particular matter regarding the mental capacity assessment is no longer in our control, is it? That matter's now in court, all right? And I'm not preventing anything, because at the end of the day, all I'm really worried about is that can you understand that? Look, let me just explain this, and I think we should look to end the call, and I'm very grateful for your time. And I've made this quite clear to other people as well. You see, my brother, can you tell me that if I've got a criminal conviction, how does that affect my brother's mental capacity?
No, it doesn't.
There is no correlation, is there? There's absolutely no correlation with a third party's criminal conviction or any action carried out by a third party on the first party's mental ability to mental capacity. There's no correlation. There's absolutely no correlation. What about the converse? And the converse is that what effect does Talib's mental capacity have on my criminal conviction?
I don't know about
I will explain to you, yeah. If my brother has mental capacity, then the criminal conviction falls apart. Do you understand?
Okay. Right, yeah.
And because obviously I've been criminally convicted of defrauding Talib money, all right? But pardon?
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Understand what you're saying.
So I'm just very conscious of the fact that if somebody fraudulently, and I believe there's a lot of fraud going on here, paying somebody off or whatever, yeah, trying to say that, look, I'm sure you're familiar with the Mental Capacity Act 2005. All right, there are 5 principles. The very first principle is that everybody is assumed to have mental capacity unless it can be established that they lack mental capacity. Okay, and my point is that assumption is being degraded. All I'm saying is a Talib's got mental capacity. If he didn't have mental capacity, surely the time that he spent in the city Linfield Mount, you would have established that. You failed to establish in 3-4 months that Talib lacked mental capacity because they were trying to put him into a care home. He was saying, no, I don't want to do this. He could make his own choices. So you fail to establish that he lacks mental capacity. I'm just really worried now that you're acting like without an interest, conflict of interest. That's fine, because I know Talib's got mental capacity. And if Talib has mental capacity, and you just said earlier on that, look, things would be really cleared up if if we can assess Talib to have mental capacity, and he can say he does no longer want to have input from the city mental health team. And you just said that. But let's just say, for example, that Talib does have mental capacity, and he's saying he doesn't want to have input from the city mental health team, and he then says, oh, give him all my money to Shazad. Then where does that leave? Where does that leave the criminal conviction?
So the previous criminal
conviction. So you see, the previous criminal conviction is like over £500,000. So ultimately, there's an ulterior agenda here. I'm trying to be, look, I'm confident, all right, that Talib's got mental capacity. Obviously, Balji is confident as well, and the people that I don't believe you've met Talib, have you?
No.
All right. So the people that have met Talib, Fungai's spoken and met Talib, Balji has met Talib. They know the law as well. They know the fact that the first principle is to assume that he has capacity. And when you speak to Talib, he's obviously very cogent and cognizant. But the problem is that the local authority, your employers, Bradford Council, cannot have it so that Talib has mental capacity. Because
I don't think that was. I don't. As far as I'm understanding, that shouldn't. I can understand what you're saying, but I don't think that'd have make a difference to a previous conviction. Because an assessment is, you can't assess if someone had capacity 2 years ago.
No, but let's just hold on a second. Please trust me on this, because it does have an effect on the criminal conviction. Because, in the criminal conviction, they didn't get a statement from Talib. Talib never said anything. There was no mental capacity assessment done. So, if he had mental capacity and he gave me the money, then the criminal conviction clearly falls apart. So it does have an effect. And, it's a point where, my brother Talib has got schizophrenia, all right? Just because you got schizophrenia does not mean that you lack mental capacity, does it? All right? And his mental condition is stable, all right? And and the law is very clear on this. Yeah, how to establish that somebody's got mental. I'm just very conscious of the fact that the lengths that the council are going to. I appreciate, because obviously you're naive to the matter. You're not fully aware. You've not even met Talib. You don't know my full circumstances. Balja and Fungi are a little bit more familiar with me. They're your employers. You're just doing the job at the end of the day. Look, and that's why I'm treating you with a little bit of respect, because I understand that you don't know everything, and I'm not going to shout and bawl at you. You're just a guy trying to do a job, and you just at the end of the day you got employers to keep satisfied. But I know the fact that the local authority are desperately trying to now establish that Talib lacks mental capacity, because if he lacks mental capacity, they can have all the rights and everything and take that away from him. And hence, the unusual circumstances that our mother was taken into the care and died, and there was very, very unusual circumstances. So my present understanding is that the local authority, your employers, would and have easily bribed and bought off senior judges and judiciaries in order to establish it. So this is not like a simple process. It's a very complex area. Obviously, that's my belief, and I have a right to have my own understanding, because I'm the best person experienced in what's going on. Yes, I know the fact that the local authority have like really messed up here. Because obviously they've taken £500,000 off me. All right, that was our family trust fund, and they're gonna, if Talib has mental capacity, that criminal conviction falls apart, and they have to give up on £500,000. That's they've taken off me, in addition to Talib's ongoing care costs that they've been saving. So Talib from as I explained, and like I said, I'm really, really grateful for your time. September, Boris Johnson was saying we're going to give more money to social care. So it's a very, very complex area, and obviously I'm trying to tread it as carefully as I can. But I'm, if I could be satisfied that there was a truly independent mental capacity assessment, that somebody that is something that I'm willing to cooperate with. And also now, because the matter's in court with, I've made the other parties aware of what's happened. I don't want to discuss the mental capacity issue right now, but I've already discussed it, because you just brought it up saying that I'm being obstructive or trying to imply that I'm being.
I'm not saying that. I wasn't saying that. I'm saying that talking about him being discharged from CMHT, that someone would need to talk to Talib.
And sorry, I'm just saying that maybe you're implying that I'm being obstructive. I didn't say that you said that, but Dr. Dixon has had an opportunity to speak to Talib.
Yeah.
She spoke to him via Skype and discharged him. So she, but like I said, the law says that Talib is assumed to have capacity, but the council can't accept that. So they're trying to go above and beyond to establish that he lacks mental capacity. Because if he has mental capacity, like I said, there's over £500,000 that are cost. That's just a minimum.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, again, I don't, like you said, I don't know a lot about this.
I know you don't.
If Talib was in receipt with his direct payments.
Yeah.
So all I'm saying, I mean, there's a system for that, and as far I don't know a lot about it, but I think it's not a case that someone's just paid money and they can give that money to whoever they want.
No, you know what is, Chris, with all due respect, my brother was, I know about the direct payment system going back to 2005. All right.
Yeah.
And my brother's social worker at the time was, what was his name now? What was his first name? I can't remember his first social worker. Deepak Patel. Do you remember Deepak Patel?
Yeah, I don't know him, but I've heard the name.
Yeah. So Deepak Patel was at the time, because in 2005 it was something that the direct payment was initially being rolled out and it was something that the government wanted, something called a personalization agenda. And so I know, I mean, you may not be fully familiar with direct payments, but this whole situation is because of the direct payments, okay? And what was actually happening was that, obviously I was helping secure Talib direct payments, but they were asking me to manage that, and I was saying I'm not being remunerated. I want to be remunerated or have my time and efforts paid for. But the problem was that the local authority were paying over, like I said, £400, £410 a week, and they had a duty of care to regularly audit the money that they were giving. So they were paying Talib money, I was managing it, and they failed to audit it for 5 years. That's a lot of money, and that's a great deal of liability. So when I said I'm going to whistleblow, all right, because obviously this is public money that you're giving somebody and you don't even know about it and you're not auditing it. So that's when it all kind of kicked off, and all the management turned against me, and senior management and have persecuted me. Yeah, this is quite clearly, that's what's quite clearly happened. And so they're now saying, oh, it's your fault, you didn't spend the money and you frauded and so on and so forth. So it's a complete mess. All right, but with regards to direct payments, as you know, this has been I'm very, very familiar with direct payments, because it's as a result of the local authority giving my brother direct payments that I've ended up in jail. And I'm saying this makes no sense, because all I try to do is whistleblow on the fact that this is a failure on the local authority. Now, with all due respect, I don't need you to comment on this, but you know how the local authority works, and you know how senior management are. A lot of people, that it's a shambles, all right? And I, as a member of the public, all I'm trying to do is care for my brother and mother, and look what's happening to us. So it's a case of, I appreciate that you don't fully understand the full background and circumstances. I'm just trying to make sure that Talib's not going to get, Talib's rights are protected, and he's not going to be distressed, because he's very distressed when the police are coming down now. There's been a police check back in November, right? The police came down. It was very traumatizing for Talib, all right? But at least they've seen him and stuff, and I'm quite happy for you to come down and see him if you want, all right? And we need to cooperate, but within reason, when I know that as long as I'm satisfied that there's no malevolent agenda, all right?
Yeah.
And I'm quite happy. I'm quite happy to work with you or anybody else, because I know the council's in the wrong and they owe us money and they're just playing shenanigans and stuff. So it's not the case that I'm trying to hide him away or something like this. All I'm trying to do is just secure his best interest. And I hope you seem a very reasonable person as well. And because you don't know the full history, I'm not trying to be abusive. I'm never going to be abusive or threatening or anything like that towards you, as long as you're being reasonable to me. And that's not my style. All right. All I'm trying to do is just secure my brother's rights, and he has, he's a vulnerable person that has certain legal rights, and irrespective of what the council's saying about me, they can't deny him his rights.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and I thank you, Shazad, for being reasonable with me, and I'm glad that you see that I'm just trying to do my job. And,
I understand.
I'll certainly I'll put your case about the housing situation. I'll also ask about the situation regarding Cmht as well. And you're right, I don't know a lot of the background to the case, and in some ways it's obviously very complex, and there's kind of, like I say, I don't want to get too involved with all that. Kind of beyond my...
Yeah, that's right. And you need to know this information because it's relevant, because I would like you to make the argument, so you've got the background and stuff. But the problem I find is that obviously, because it's like compartmentalized, the council know everything about me, but then they keep like they're utilizing like yourself as a pawn. All right, because obviously the thing, they'll know that you don't know about this, and then they're asking you to do something, and that's like conflicting with me, and somebody else could easily get wound up. I know the fact that you're innocent in this, and you're like just trying to do your job, and you're not going to be aware of everything, and your employers are not going to tell you everything, but they can be utilizing you as a pawn. Just be aware of the fact that if there's anything that that you're not sure about, or like we've had this quite cordial conversation. I'm quite happy to talk to you. I'm not hiding anything. I know my brother has entitlements. I know he has mental capacity. And he's being done over, so I'm quite happy to speak to you. So from going forward, I won't speak to Baljit from now on. I'll just speak to yourself, if that's okay.
That's fine, Shazad. But if we could would it be possible to kind of maybe limit it to maybe once a week, unless it's at the most, unless it's something really urgent? Would that be okay?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to overburden you. I mean, but like sometimes I might not need you for time. I don't foresee that we need you for long. It's just that, just regarding this housing situation, if I can just try to get it sorted out, I promise. If you tell me, look, Mr. Hussain, I haven't got time today. I've got 10 minutes. I'm quite happy to work around your schedule. I don't want to. I'm very, very grateful that you've even given me this time. So I'm never going to. I'm never going to take as much time as I've taken now. And obviously, rather than limiting it, you can just tell me like I can only spare 10 to 15 minutes or 20 minutes, or there might be something. And would it be possible for me to speak to you by email?
When I call you back, I'll give you an answer regarding that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought that that's a problem. Phone and email.
Well, I mean, either. I mean, sometimes because obviously like for example, if I need to pass some information to you or documents to you, I would rather have to minimize, like you said, if I can speak to you via email, isn't that better? Then I don't need to maybe call you then.
Yeah, when I call you back this week, I'll get you an answer regarding that as well.
It's just right? Yeah. So these 3 points you need to get an answer to, because obviously I was sending loads of emails. I've been sending loads of emails to Baljet and Fungi. They never responded. All right. So they've never ever responded. So I presume that the senior managers have told them not to respond to my emails. But I would obviously, because I'm like this, you've said that I want to limit it, one call a week, and then sometimes maybe some things I don't need to speak to you about, but I can just send you an email. I would rather so I would like you to find out if you can communicate by email in addition to the telephone. I would like you to find out regarding regarding Talib's discharge and Talib's social worker, and what your role is as a care coordinator. That should have been finished. And finally, the most important thing is obviously looking to secure Talib's tenancy at 20 Primary Way going forward, because obviously we don't want to leave him homeless.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, I'll get you answers to those things. That's fine. I'm personally just mindful of, obviously I've got other cases involved, so I can't let it take up too much of my time.
You know what?
I'm happy.
You know what is, Chris? I mean, that's always been the case. When I spoke to Deepak Patel, they'll give you too many caseloads, all right? And I'm empathetic of the fact that you've got loads of other people, and just because you've told me that, I'm going to go out of my way not to trouble you as much, because obviously I've not got in touch with you. The reason I've got in touch with you today is because obviously there's a serious issue regarding my brother's tenancy. Ideally, the best situation is that we just want you to leave us alone and we want to get on with our life.
Yeah.
All right.
I understand that.
Yeah. So.
And the thing is, if you do, I'll get you an answer. I'll give you a call back, in the next couple of days. If you do call by the single point of access and I'm not available, I apologise, but I will from now on. If I'm available to talk, then I'll talk. And if not, I'll try and call you back as soon as possible afterwards. Yeah?
Well, that's a lot better than the service I've previously received. So I'm very grateful, and I'm very grateful for your hospitable nature. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's great. Okay. I'm glad we've talked, Shazad. So we'll speak soon. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you. Cheers then. Bye.